don't mix.
Sounds like a challenge.
Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations... Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong property. Today we're talking about Elemental, Pixar's anticipated new feature film. We just saw it ourselves, and today we're going to be talking about our opinions on it. Is this rom-com absolute fire, or is it all washed up? I'm Keefe Enosi with Wicked Binge, and today we're discussing things we loved and hated about Disney Pixar's Elemental. This should go without saying, but spoiler warning, if you haven't seen the movie, feel free to come back later. But if you're still here, be sure to tell us which of our hot takes should be kept on the menu at the fireplace. Kicking things off naturally is the first thing you notice about an animated movie, the animation and presentation as a whole. Let's just cut to the chase. We loved the animation. Say what you will about the current era of animated feature films, but the animation rarely disappoints, and Elemental is no exception. All of the four elements are animated with great fluidity, no pun intended. Highlights include Ember's talent for making glass sculptures, and one scene where she jumps from crystal to crystal, changing her color along the way. Particularly impressive is the animation of water as a whole. Like Wade and other water characters boiling during close contact with fire people, and in some scenes the water looks like it came straight from the real world. Personally, I wasn't able to see the movie in 3D, but with the beautiful colors and expressiveness of the animation, I'd highly recommend it if that's an option near you. The sound design is pretty great too. It's what you'd expect from a Pixar movie, with a pleasant soundtrack, fitting sound effects, and a great voice cast that brings the characters to life. Particularly interesting is Mamadou Ati, the voice actor of Wade, who actually hasn't voiced any characters before this. But with how darn well he played the guy, you wouldn't know it. The presentation alone makes the film worth watching. There are other fabulous displays of it, but we don't want to spoil all of them. You'll have to check the film out for yourself. So we've established that Elemental has great presentation, but what about the movie itself? Well, that's where the opinions become rather mixed. We'll move on to the story and plot as a whole next. To give a brief summary of the movie, it revolves around a fire girl named Ember, the daughter of Bernie and Cinder, who run The Fireplace, a shop in Element City that sells food and general merchandise from fire culture. But conflict arises due to Ember covering up an accident in the shop she's supposed to run someday, that she caused by losing her temper, filling it up with water from leaky pipes. More on that later. For now, in a twist of fate, it leads to her meeting a water person city inspector named Wade Ripple. And as he shows her the world, she realizes that she doesn't necessarily want to run her parents' shop, and of course, the two fall in love. The core of the story is Ember learning to choose for herself what she wants to do, rather than simply tying her life to what her family expects her to do. We have mixed feelings on the story. The relationship between Wade and Ember is nothing short of adorable, and it had us rooting for them all the way through.
You're so hot.
Excuse me?
There are also plenty of sweet callbacks, like Ember playing the crying game with Wade to get him to drip from the ceiling he'd soaked into upon evaporating. That said, there were a few issues with the pacing of the film. Often, character growth felt rushed, like Ember and Wade's third act conflict, which felt like it came out of nowhere, as they'd been getting along great with no issues since they started seeing each other. But our biggest issue is that the story doesn't do anything unique, really. As pleasant of a movie as it is, it's pretty darn predictable all the way through. The story may be lukewarm, but underneath every story are the messages and values that inspire it. Looking back on nostalgic childhood movies often reveals messages you only realize once you're a bit more grown up. We may be kids at heart here at Wicked Binge, but we're somewhat grown up already, so we can tell you that Elemental is a metaphor for many relevant issues, the most noticeable being interracial relationships and, to an extent, forbidden love in general, as we see Bernie having a strong bias against water people for their mistreatment of him in the past. This is a pretty excellent portrayal. Bernie isn't treated as a horrible monster for his biases, with them being shown in a sympathetic light, with how oppressed fire people have been by other elements, often treated as monsters. He's allowed a chance at growth and redemption towards the movie's end, a chance he fully deserves. Equally memorable is Wade's statement during the main duo's hot air balloon ride that oftentimes losing one's temper can be the heart's way of telling you something you aren't ready to hear. This is a powerful message, and it's actually one that got us thinking. Who knew that a movie made primarily for kids could have such solid nuggets of actual wisdom? We loved the messages of the movie. A fun movie is one thing, but a fun movie that gives you something to think about is even better. But of course, speaking of fun, what's a Pixar movie that takes itself too seriously? You've got to have a sense of humor. Elemental is a romantic comedy, so naturally it's got to have a comedy alongside the romance. Most of the movie's comedy comes from the cute visual gags and element-related puns. At the beginning of the movie, a scene shows Cloud people exiting a blimp, effectively deflating it, only for a new group to enter, re-inflating it. This movie's humor isn't laugh-out-loud funny, but we're still gonna say we liked it, because what it lacked in hilarity, it more than made up for in being downright adorable. It's the kind of stuff that kids can enjoy and adults can at least smile at. It's not exactly a masterpiece of comedy, but it's got some moments that'll give you a chuckle. My personal favorite was the scene where Food Inspector Wade had to try Bernie's incredibly hot food. This one's definitely one to bring the kids to, if you have any. Though, we have to be honest, Wade and his family crying is only funny so many times. But no matter what the rest of your movie looks like without a memorable main cast, it's gonna fall flat. Thankfully, Elemental has quite a few great characters. Wade and Ember, we've already given some praise to. Ember is an overall nice person who struggles with her temper, but genuinely tries to get it under control so she can take over her father's shop. When she fails, she's an absolute mess and even tries to cover it up. But later, we find out that maybe she lost her temper because, deep down, the fireplace wasn't where she was meant to be. This revelation was thanks to Wade, who, let's face it, is the biggest sweetheart in the movie, easily. From encouraging the crowd at a sports game to cheer for a depressed athlete, to being loyal to Ember, even to the point of near death. This guy's likability personified. But what if I were to tell you that my favorite character was neither of them? They're both great, don't get me wrong, but Bernie is a truly impressively well-written character. He's the closest thing the film has to an antagonist, but that doesn't make him a bad guy. In fact, he's only antagonistic insofar as he stands between the main relationship. But as we mentioned earlier, his bias against water people is rooted in honest pain. He's not painted as right, but he's also not painted as being a bad person for this character flaw. In the end, when Wade saves Ember's life, Bernie fully accepts him into the family, showing that he can change and grow into a better person. We really liked the main cast. Stories of hope and redemption are important, and following your heart without abandoning your loved ones is too. But as great as these three are, they're really the only remarkable characters in the film. None of the characters are anything near bad, but only these three stood out as particularly interesting. Unfortunately, now we have to get to the negative aspects of the movie. Elemental was worth watching, for sure, but its lack of conflict really brought it down, honestly. We don't necessarily think the movie needed a villain. In fact, it worked pretty darn well without one, and with a relatively small cast of characters, too. But while this may have been a romantic comedy, it also has a decent bit of action, such as Ember and Wade having to protect the fireplace's sacred blue flame from a giant flood near the end. But as far as the main story goes, well, it doesn't really live up to said action. There's certainly build up to conflicts, like Wade and Ember's fight and Bernie's distaste for Wade, but none of these are really fleshed out, and the conflict only becomes even noticeable in the third act. Bernie and Wade only really interact in one scene, and it's the aforementioned Food Inspector scene, which, while hilarious, and it got Wade banned, we didn't really see where things went. It feels like things got brushed over in the end. Even after Bernie finally realizes his daughter's screw-up that she'd been hiding, he immediately gets over it, and the fact that she didn't want to run the shop. And, okay, come on, did anyone really think Wade was gonna die? No offense if you did, we would have been crying more than him if so. Now, you might notice we didn't even bring up the spat between Wade and Ember, and yeah, that's how irrelevant it was. That really felt like the movie was just checking off the boxes for a rom-com. Like, the guy literally has an airport scene. It's a shame the movie didn't delve into Ember blaming the accident with the pipes on Wade. Sure, Bernie obviously finds out, but Wade doesn't seem affected at all. That could have been a pretty powerful scene, and it would have fit with the movie's theme of redemption. This lack of conflict isn't too offensive on the surface, but it's the only thing about the movie that really holds it back from being good to great. So we really don't like it. So we've gone through every major category. Now, what about the film overall? Let's start by reiterating. The animation is fantastic. Even if the character designs are a mixed bag, seriously, Bernie looks like the combination of Endeavor and Oz from Fanboy and Chum Chum, the animation is truly peak Pixar, with beautiful colors and elemental effects. The movie is worth seeing for that alone, and add on to that a heartwarming romance, well-written main characters, and an adorably cheesy sense of humor, and you've got a wholesome experience. That said, you don't have an incredible one. The story of Elemental is fine, but it's just fine, honestly. There definitely could have been more done with the conflict, and slightly better pacing, and while that's really the only fully negative aspect of the movie, it's enough to take what could have been a phenomenal movie and turn it into one that's just okay. So honestly, we have to say we have mixed feelings about Elemental. Again, it's definitely worth seeing for its gorgeous visuals and lovable main characters, but the amount of wasted potential in the characters' interpersonal conflicts is quite disappointing. If you go into Elemental expecting Pixar's next Ratatouille or Inside Out, you'll be disappointed, but if you go into it expecting a cute, if cliche, love story with gorgeous visuals, you'll have a good time. We do have more to say about the lack of conflict and evil in the latest animated movies, but maybe that's a topic for another video.